The irresistible combination of rock, pop, and emotion that was Fleetwood Mac's sound propelled the band to international fame. They put on a united front on stage, but there was a whole lot of drama going on behind the scenes. Particularly amongst two important members, Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks, tensions simmered. A passionate romance between the two people devolved into animosity and strife over time. Collaboration becomes challenging when their personal problems infiltrate their professional life. Buckingham blamed Nicks for the band's 2018 fire, which he said was premeditated. In that case, what transpired? How did resentment and finger-pointing develop into such a toxic love story? Come with us as we reminisce about the beginnings of one of the most famous rock duos and investigate the triumphs, tragedies, and lessons learned along the way. From Elvis Presley and the Rolling Stones to the Beatles, a slew of great musicians rose to prominence in the 1960s. Fleetwood Mac would join the ranks of the all-time greats in due time. It was a glorious period filled with talent. Their songs were mesmerizing, with a rhythm that would have you bopping along in no time. But how exactly did Fleetwood Mac become so popular? To find out, continue watching The Daughter of Morris H. Buckingham and Ruth Thader. Lindsey Adams Buckingham was born in Palo Alto, California on October 3, 1949. She was an integral part of Fleetwood Mac's success. His dad was a San Jose State University football standout, who later became president of the Alexander Ballard Company, a coffee roaster in San Francisco famous for the Alta Organic brand. Atherton is a wealthy town in the Bay Area where Lindsey and his two elder brothers, Gregory and Jeffrey, spent their childhood. Swimming was a highly encouraged sport for the boys at the Buckingham household, which had a heavy focus on athletics. Gregory, Lindsey's brother, won a silver medal in swimming in the 1968 Olympic Games in Mexico City. Lindsey dropped out of athletics to focus on music. After finishing high school at Menlo Atherton, Lindsey continued his education at San Jose State University, just like his father and brother Greg before him, though he dropped out. It all started with a Mickey Mouse guitar that he got as a child, jamming out to the 45S that his brother Jeff had collected. Eventually, his parents saw his potential and gifted him a $35 harmony guitar. Buckingham had an expressive and distinctive playing technique, even though he never took guitar instruction or learnt to read music. At 13 years old, he felt a strong pull towards folk music and started playing fingerpicking in the style of the Kingston Trio. His distinctive style would be defined by these methods in due time. This extraordinary gift, combined with his unconventional guitar playing style, would forever alter the sound of Fleetwood Mac. The path that led to Lindsey Buckingham joining the illustrious Fleetwood Mac. In a high school band that was originally called the Fritz Robin Memorial Band, Lindsey Buckingham played bass and sang psychedelic and folk rock from 1966 until 1971. In 1967, the band's name was changed to Fritz due to lineup changes. At the time, Buckingham extended an invitation to his friend Stevie Nicks, who he wanted to have on board as a backup singer. They began dating after leaving Fritz in 1971, but their creative cooperation quickly blossomed into something more. Using a half-inch 4-track Ampex recorder, Buckingham and Nicks captured 7 demo tracks in 1972 at Buckingham's father's coffee roasting facility in Daly City, California. They headed to Los Angeles with their demos in hand, hoping to land a recording deal. Their hard work was rewarded in September 1973 with the publication of Buckingham Nicks, the duo's self-titled album, by Polydor Records. Commercial failure befell the album and its producers, Keith Olsen and Richard Dashut, leading to their dismissal from Polydor. Buckingham joined Don Everly's backing band to help pay the bills, and while touring, he sang Phil Everly's vocal parts. At the same time, a far larger door was being unlocked behind the scenes by fate. Mick Fleetwood heard Buckingham Nicks' Frozen Love while he was scouting California's Sound City Studios. He wanted to know who had played the role after being so impressed by the guitarist's talent. For some reason, that very day, Buckingham and Nicks happened to be in the studio making demos. Not long after that, Fleetwood met Buckingham, and in December 1974, after guitarist Bob Welch quit Fleetwood Mac, Fleetwood made an offer to replace him. But Buckingham was fussy about one thing. He was inseparable from Nicks. She is essential for his decision to join Fleetwood Mac. Buckingham and Nicks were hired by Fleetwood without an audition because of their agreement. The young couple and the band both met their demise at this point. In order to promote their Buckingham-Nicks album, Buckingham and Nicks went on a brief tour before formally becoming members of Fleetwood Mac. Tom Moncrief, who would go on to play bass on Belladonna, Nicks' 1981 solo album, was one of the touring band members. Bob Aguirre and Gary Hodges were the other two drummers. They announced their new membership in Fleetwood Mac to the Alabama crowd during a performance in a state where their CD had only a small number of listeners. A new chapter begins for Fleetwood Mac. Fleetwood Mac's self-titled 1975 album was a watershed moment in the group's career. In the United States, the album skyrocketed to the top spot. Monday Morning and I'm So Afraid, two original tunes written by Buckingham, were originally meant for a second Buckingham-Nicks album. Blue Letter and Nicks' song Crystal both include his main vocals. Their presence breathed new life into Fleetwood Mac's sound, giving it a magnetic quality that would change the band forever and cement their place in rock history as legends. Rumors, 1977, the band's second studio album together, propelled Fleetwood Mac to superstardom, even though their first record with the new lineup was successful. This album defined an era with its mix of raw passion, harmony, and heartbreak. It became one of the best-selling recordings of all time. A top 10 hit in the United States was the first song, Go Your Own Way, by Lindsey Buckingham. Secondhand News and Never Going Back Again, two more of his outstanding singles, were also included on the album. The Chain, a rare track dedicated to the whole band, and Christine McVie's upbeat anthem, Don't Stop, both include Buckingham on lead vocals. Both songs have become famous live staples for the band. The band was experiencing tense times as they were recording Rumors, in particular between Buckingham and Stevie Nicks, who dissolved their romance around this time. The band's personal struggles didn't stop them from delivering a masterwork. Buckingham spearheaded the band's second major attempt, the 1979 double album Tusk, which had a more experimental sound, in defiance of Rumors' formula. Before bringing his ideas to the studio, he convinced Mick Fleetwood to allow him to work on the songs alone at home. The outcome was daring and full of potential. Tusk had 3 big singles. Tusk, the title single by Buckingham, features the USC Trojan Marching Band and is the #1 song in the US. Think About Me by Christine McVie, which peaked at number 20 in the US, and Sarah by Stevie Nicks, which stretched emotionally, peaked at number 1 in the USS. The original 6.5-minute version of Sarah was reinstated in subsequent editions and best hits compilations, although it was cut to 4.5 minutes for radio and early CD versions. Peter Green, who was formerly the guitarist for Fleetwood Mac, also worked on certain tracks during the Tusk sessions. However, his uncredited guitar work is only heard on Christine McVie's Brown Eyes. Buckingham showcased his production abilities in the late 1970 essay, when he was simultaneously working on Tusk by producing albums for performers such as Jon Stewart and Walter Egan. At some point, he decided to focus on his own solo career. Law & Order, his first solo effort, came out in 1981. With the exception of guest spots by Christine McVie and Mick Fleetwood, Buckingham played practically every instrument on the album. The album fully embraced the new wave and eccentric lo-fi styles that had started to surface during Tusk. Trouble, the album's outstanding track, was written by Richard Deschutes, producer of Fleetwood Mac, and went on to become a #1 smash. It peaked at #1 for 3 weeks and reached #9 on the Billboard Hot 100. An Australian one. Fleetwood Mac returned to the studio in 1981 after a much-needed year-long hiatus, following a massive world tour in 1980. As a consequence, the band returned to the top of the US album charts with Mirage, 1982, an album that was more radio-friendly and pop-oriented. Despite the album's economic success, it came at a time when Stevie Nicks and the rest of the band were starting to make names for themselves as solo performers. Due to members' increasing interest in pursuing solo careers, Fleetwood Mac would wait 5 years before releasing another studio album. After Buckingham's 7-year relationship with Carol Ann Harris ended in 1984, he released Go Insane, his second solo album, a year later. On the Hot 100, the title tune peaked at number 23. Buckingham attributed the song's inspiration to his relationship with Stevie Nicks, following their separation, in an interview from 2008. Harris, however, asserted in her biography Storms that the song was really about her split with Buckingham. The album came to a climax with D.W. Sweet, a touching homage to Dennis Wilson, the late drummer for the Beach Boys and a longtime friend of the group. Wilson had a brief engagement to Christine McVie. At this period, Buckingham was also working with other musicians on projects. You Can't Make Love by Don Henley, from 1984's Building, The Perfect Beast, features his guitar work and harmony vocals. Not only did he compose and perform practically all of the instruments on the back to the Future Score's Time Bomb Town, but he also appeared on the legendary 1985 charity single, We Are the World. In 1986, he collaborated with Belinda Carlisle on the song Since You've Gone From Tango in the Night and Departure, which was released by Fleetwood Mac. Tango in the Night, Fleetwood Mac's most commercially successful album since Rumours, was released in 1987 and was Buckingham's 5th studio album with the band. Notably, several of the tracks featured on the album, including You and I, Big Love, Tango in the Night, Family Man, Caroline, and Tango in the Night, were initially composed for what was supposed to be Buckingham's 3rd solo album. Rather, he put them to use in the band's endeavor.